Welcome to another edition of the e-commerce report. We've got very big news in the industry, which came out in the last few hours, I think, Steve. A freight startup, Convoy, based in the US, has cancelled all their shipments. Now, they're taking these big steps, which they call traditional steps. But, to me, it sounds kind of they're closing their doors. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I mean, so Convoy is essentially a freight broker, but using a lot of technology to assist with carriers and connecting them with people that are looking to have shipments moved. And very big in the US. A lot of freight goes through freight brokers. And I think a lot of these companies saw a huge amount of volume that spiked during the COVID period. That volume's now come off, and the cost of deliveries have actually reduced dramatically for some of the trucking type movements in the US as well. It looks like they're in a bit of trouble. It looks like potentially they weren't profitable. They needed to raise some more money. They haven't been able to do that. And the Wall Street Journal earlier today was saying that they're winding down their freight business. So maybe they're transitioning into doing something else. But yeah, it doesn't look good. And sort of having a read through Twitter and seeing what others are talking about, they're suggesting that this isn't the only one that's in trouble of these freight brokers. There's a few others that are also in trouble. Some of the banks have been lending money to a number of these essentially digital freight brokers and using sort of invoice financing to finance their businesses. And yeah, apparently their balance sheets don't look great. And someone from the bank sort of suggested that maybe there's going to be more of these companies falling over in the coming months ahead. So hopefully not. Hopefully these businesses can sort of control their costs and control their funding and recover. But it'd be interesting to see what happens with Convoy.
Yeah, it's definitely a story that we should be monitoring. They said that there will be more developments coming out in the next 48 hours. It's definitely a story that we will be keeping track of at Locate to You. So let's move to our first one that's been trending this week. The e-commerce company Alibaba has introduced its half-day express delivery service in Beijing. Now, orders placed before noon will be delivered that same afternoon, and orders placed before midnight will reach your doorstep before noon the following day. Now, Steve, Beijing is the world's most populous nation, or the populous capital city, I would rather say. How will they achieve this in such a busy city, half day? Do you think it's achievable?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Back in was it 2018? I actually traveled to China and spent a bit of time there looking at sort of their logistics setups and how the infrastructure that they've set up. The one thing that they had then was sortation of parcels, and so being able to sort parcels using route optimization technology and putting deliveries into particular delivery runs where drivers can go there, pick up a bag of parcels and load it into their vehicle for delivery. So they had a lot of robotics that they were using around sortation. But they're also, they've got the technology side of things, but also they've got the density that they've got there. You can have a driver traveling to deliver to a very small area, but delivering a very large number of parcels on a particular day. So they've got huge amounts of volume and huge amounts of density, which means density allows you to deliver things faster. You've got one driver going to a small area, less distance to travel, and being able to deliver a lot of parcels in that small area. I think this is it's a great move by Alibaba and definitely something that I think is achievable in that market.
Yeah. Why would a customer then be so invested and interested in a half day opposed to same day? I mean, or ultra fast deliveries. What is the difference between those three?
I think the key thing is that they're going to be able to do this more cost effectively. So when you think about like the ultra fast delivery, it's a shorter time window. It's maybe delivered within 30 minutes or within 1 hour. That's quite an expensive delivery because the driver's got to go to that location, pick up and take a small number of parcels. Whereas if the driver's consolidated a large number of volume, which they are, they've got half a day's worth of volume. And in that market, it will be a substantial amount of volume. The driver's going to be picking up 100 parcels in one go, and so the cost on that per delivery basis will be significantly less, which will make it a lot more affordable for the end user, but also affordable for the e-commerce business to include that sort of freight cost inside of their process.
Yeah. What does it look like behind the scenes? Will that mean that stores will have to move closer to the residential areas? How does that part of the last mile delivery will look like?
Yeah, look, I think it's potentially that may have something to do with it, but I think in that market there, they're able to do things really efficiently because they do have that density. And so I think the key thing is they're going to need to make sure they've got the sortation facilities available to be able to handle that. And then they need to have the right number of drivers to be able to get those parcels to their customers on that same day.
Okay. Let's look at the hospitality sector now. Choice Hotels in the US has now partnered with Grubhub, and they will use their service to deliver food to tourists at some of their 500 hotels. Now, these hotels actually don't cater for tourists or the customers on the premises. So that makes it such a unique gap in the market with people traveling. And usually when you're traveling, you're unfamiliar with the restaurants available, your choice of food that you prefer in that area. So it makes it very convenient. And Choice Hotel says that it will be rolled out to other countries. I know that there's also Choice Hotels in Australia. Do you think that this is a great opportunity?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I think it definitely makes a lot of sense, particularly for hotels that don't have their own kitchen attached to it. Definitely worthwhile in doing this. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And who knows? These hotels may not just select to sign up to Grubhub. They may actually then look at DoorDash and Uber Eats and Deliveroo and others. But yeah, I think it definitely makes sense for these hotels to be adapting this, and maybe they've done a deal with one of these providers to actually get a cut of the transaction as it's going through. So yeah, interesting to see how that all plays out.
Do you think that there are some other significant business opportunities locked up here for e-commerce businesses, for instance, delivering directly to hotels where people are trapped? Maybe they are busy, they're traveling for work. Do you think that there's maybe an untapped market?
Yeah, look, potentially. I think maybe it's that convenience store type approach, the local 7-Eleven, being able to have that delivered directly to the hotel. I mean, that could be interesting rather than the hotels having to have those fridges filled up with all the products and having to reshuffle that every single day. That may be a better option for them to actually be thinking about something like that. So yeah, I think there's definitely opportunities there.
Yeah. So Uber Eats now also allows customers to order from two restaurants simultaneously. And you'll remember that, previously they were not allowed. If you wanted to order from different stores, you had to order a different order. You had to make a different order. It means an added cost to your delivery fees. This obviously added a lot of disputes in family households, I can imagine. How will this impact the delivery times if a driver has to travel to two locations now instead of one?
Yeah, look, I think this is really clever in terms of, from a customer experience point of view, being able to have that one driver go to multiple restaurants in that same area to do those pickups and then deliver to the consumer. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm imagining that Uber Eats is going to have a lot of rules in place in terms of the technology to making sure that driver's not picking up another shipment along the way or another food delivery throughout that journey. And so I think they will have the smarts in there. Is it going to make the delivery total time longer? Yes, likely. But hopefully, they're going to restaurants that are very close in the same suburb, so it's going to make sense. And I'm sure they're going to have those rules in place to say you're not just going to be able to have one order that's going to 10 restaurants in 10 different suburbs. Hopefully, it's in those same suburbs, so that will make sense. So yeah, I think it's definitely a smart move.
Yeah, I know that one of the rules is that you are only allowed to order from two restaurants in close proximity. So how would that then negatively impact the restaurants? Let's say you're close to a hub or a mall or center, and then other popular restaurants are in far-flung areas. Would that negatively impact restaurants?
Look, I think what it's going to mean is, restaurants that are close together, and I guess inside of that suburban area, and that main strip mall, like that's where those restaurants are going to do quite well, because people are going to be ordering from two restaurants at the same time. That's going to work. Whereas if you're a restaurant that's in the middle of nowhere, it's, unless you've got something that people really love, it may have an impact on your order volume. And so yeah, I think closeness to where your customers are is, whether you're delivering a pizza or delivering a parcel, for speed of delivery is really important.
Yeah. I know DoorDash is already doing something similar, but my question to you then, Steve, is it actually profitable for companies, or is it merely just to focus on better customer service?
I think it will actually help with profitability, because the driver's going to be picking up multiple shipments, and multiple shipments means multiple amounts of revenue. And so that is going to help in increasing that basket size. So instead of it being a $20 order, it's going to turn into a $40 order or $50 order, and that's going to be better for Uber Eats or others. And so, yeah, I think it's definitely going to help them in achieving profitability. And it's probably one of the driving reasons as to why they're thinking about doing this.
Yeah. Let's move to trucks now. Exciting news from Volvo. It has now launched a new fleet management portal, and it provides trucking operators with comprehensive insights into their vehicles and drivers. This service is actually a centralized hub for fleet managers. Now, you can access details like analytics. Fleet managers can also monitor fuel consumption, idle time, and all those kind of things. How can a business actually benefit from these new features? Just to give a better oversight, or is it in the end of the day also to save money?
Yeah, look, this is interesting. I think like fleet management tools have been around for a very long time, and a lot of companies use them today, and they use that to be able to understand where that vehicle is at that point in time, but also if there's any sort of safety issues, or the vehicle's broken down, or the temperature's too high, or any of those types of things. It's grabbing that information. So these systems have been around for a long time and used by lots of different companies. And I've always wondered why a lot of these car manufacturers haven't actually enabled this for their customers to actually use. And so it's great to see Volvo is actually doing this. The challenge I see with something in terms of what they're doing is most unless that company just buys all Volvo, then it's going to be difficult because they're going to be working between multiple different systems to be able to grab that information across their multiple vehicles. And so I think it's a great step. How useful it's going to be will depend on how many of their customers actually just have an entire Volvo fleet, which there may be customers that do that, but there may not be. So it's definitely makes sense. I think we're going to see more and more car manufacturers go down this path and really sort of enable the releasing of that data to their end customer. It is very interesting.
Are fuel consumption and idle time huge headaches for business owners? I mean, why is it so important to monitor these things?
Yeah, so these things, it's going to all come down to cost, and it's like is that driver traveling really aggressively and using up a lot more fuel, or even just increasing more wear and tear on that vehicle? Or are they just, sitting there on the side of the road with the air conditioning on, idling away when the vehicle should actually be turned off and saving petrol? So it makes a lot of sense for businesses to be using fleet management tools, and that these are going to save them money, and ultimately that's what businesses are thinking about.
Absolutely. The last one that I want to touch on is that time of the year. Shopify has released a new study which has found that nearly 3 in 4 holiday shoppers plan to spend about the same or more on holiday gifts this year compared to last year. Now, this is great news for business owners. Many of these people who've been taking part in the survey say that they're actually starting with their shopping already in October. So people must start getting busy with those Christmas deals. And then an interesting fact is also that Gen Z, now that would be your 18 to 29-year-olds, they feel a little bit more generous. They plan to spend more than they spent last year. There's a surely music to business owners' ears, especially after this tight-strapped year. Plenty of opportunity for business owners. Steve, what would you advise them to seize the moment?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think every year we see, even in our Zoom to You business, that delivery volumes start to increase. As soon as sort of the October hits, you start seeing that volume increase, and you see it going through to November, and then continuing right the way through to Christmas. So this is definitely makes a lot of sense. I think it's like, what are business owners and e-commerce businesses doing to really make sure they're going to capture their customers' volume throughout this period and grab as much revenue as they possibly can? And that's going to probably come down to what specials they're doing, and what do those specials look like, and how many of those they have. Are they going to be having specials on Black Friday and the Cyber Monday? But also making sure that product is going to be able to get to their customer in time for Christmas. I know a lot of the logistics providers start to say, when it gets to you know, the 15th of December. They don't guarantee that it's going to arrive before Christmas. And so e-commerce and retail businesses need to start thinking about it today. What are they going to do so that they can get product to customers in time for Christmas and be taking those orders the day before Christmas and still being able to deliver? And there's lots of different things that they can be doing to be able to do that. And maybe that's around using platforms to deliver a faster service and doing a 3-hour or same-day service. But yeah, definitely, you know, there's a big opportunity if you can make sure you get product to your customer, particularly in those last 2 weeks heading towards Christmas.
Yeah, but we still can't forget that, I mean, there will be some of those families in this current economic climate that will be, you know, be a little bit less generous. This will obviously you have to assess it, whether you know, your client base, is it, in what age group does it fall? Is that
Correct.
necessary to look at the specific generation that you are targeting?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's so, depending on your product, depending on the type of person that's going to be looking to buy it and how important that is, will, I think, depend on, you know, how successful you are going into this period. But, you know, I think the world's been talking about us going into a recession for a long time now. We still haven't formally gone into a recession. Yes, there's been a bit of a downturn, but maybe that won't actually happen, and we'll see what happens over this Christmas period.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us for the e-commerce report. Any last remarks from you, Steve?
No, look, it's been an interesting week, and it'll be interesting to see sort of what plays out over the next couple of weeks, particularly with things like Convoy and these other digital freight brokers in the US, and seeing, you know, what sort of consolidation we're going to see in the market there.
Yeah, I know the team at Locate2You journalists will definitely keep our pulse on that story as it develops. So keep on going to our website to follow us for more information on that developing story. Thanks again. You can join us again next week, same time, same place. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Mia. See you next week.